I'm Taryn Rosenkrantz, and this is Political TrailMix, where strategy meets storytelling, and every episode unpacks the people, power, and politics shaping our country. Let's dig in. I'm Taryn Rosenkrantz, and you're once again joining me. Thank you. And I'm so glad to be having a good friend of mine, Councilmember Evan Glass, who's on the Montgomery County, Maryland County Council. I'm so glad he's here with me. He is a dear friend who I'm going to say I've known for 3 decades, but then I'm going to say that can't be possible. So I guess we've just known each other since birth. So that works,
There you
right?
go.
That's how we'll say it, right? Not going to tell our age there at all because, we're just in our 20s. So that's, just super successful there, right? But I am so glad he's here with me. I next time hope that we're doing this. I keep telling this to people. I'm like, we got to do this in a more friendly, fun setting than our offices because, like, wine or coffee or food, brunch, and
Down.
we're good at all these things. And
Wine,
yet we're
coffee,
here in our
food, all of
offices.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you get old. Yeah. Instead, we're not in his frat house, which is how we met, years and years ago. Actually, Evan had a TV show, believe it or not, back in his freshman year of college. He was on The Advocate. We met at American University. So he was an advocate even then.
Trying to help the
He was
world.
on the AU television show. But anyway, I'm giving away all of his deep, dark secrets, but I'm happy to have him here. I want him to actually introduce himself instead of me giving away his secrets. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here today and how important you are. And then we're gonna talk all that we can about politics, and everything that was going on in the world right now.
Yeah. Well, so Taryn, thanks for having me on your pod. I appreciate it. And yeah, we go back a long time. And but here we are, continuing to work together to help make our community in Montgomery County and Maryland a better place, help make the country a better place, get us back on track where we respect the rule of law and individual dignity, right? But for me, my story began, I'll fast forward and say, we met at American University where I was studying journalism. And I ended up thereafter having a degree in journalism and political science and working at CNN for 12 years. And I covered Congress and presidential campaigns and national elections. And then I moved to a new community and I was walking to the metro station. The sidewalks were crumbling.
Yeah.
And there was no safe way to cross the street to get to the metro station. And I thought to myself, I know how Congress works, but who do I talk to in my own neighborhood about fixing sidewalks? And 15 years later, I'm now on the county council. I'm chair of the transportation committee. I'm helping make our roads safer for everybody, pedestrians, bicyclists, and drivers. But there's also a lot of work in our community to make sure that people feel safe and protected, especially now. And so on the county council, I'm doing all of that work.
I love it. I love it. And I'm so glad you're here. It's been a tough year. Obviously, 2025 has not been easy for Democrats all across the country. I think being here in the DC suburbs, it's been particularly hard. We're a pretty liberal bastion of hope, which is what people feel. That's why they're here, particularly Montgomery County, Maryland, I think, because we're usually forward thinking. We're usually like first in country for a lot of things. But here we are experiencing it more than anyone, I think, being this target on our back for so much of what was happening with Doge and everything else. You guys, I think, though, being on the county council have been, how much people are hurting from these job cuts and job losses. And you all have been finding some really creative ways to improve things for our community. And, I think as we're moving forward, it's been really interesting. And I know I've been talking to you one on one about this, but tell me about some of the ways you think we should be moving forward, what you guys have been doing to help people, and what you've been thinking about what's making best, because I feel like there's just this lost feeling of hope amongst the
Hard.
community. And so what I've been having folks come on, our guests have been coming on and just talking a little bit about hope and like how we can feel better and what we can be doing. So I kind of want bringing that to people. That's what we're doing on this each week. So
Yeah, so just to let everybody know where Montgomery County is, we are just over the border of DC, right? You can see DC from your house. You live close to the line.
I live right
Um,
behind the sign.
you right. Not akin to Sarah Palin seeing Russia from her house, but you can see DC from your house, Western Avenue, right down the road from you. And here in Montgomery County, we used to be a sleepy suburb where it was a company town, and that company was the federal government. And fast forward to the year 2025, there are about 70,000 federal employees who live in Montgomery County and tens of thousands more who are contractors. And what Donald Trump and Elon Musk have done is just decimate our way of life and our local economy. There are probably about 4 to 5 thousand federal employees who are former federal employees, or come the next few months, they will officially no longer be on the federal payroll. And then tons of contractors, thousands of them have already been laid off from USAID, from the State Department, from FDA and NIH and HHS. These are these are big institutions that are in our community, and so there is a feeling of despair. There are feelings of anger and resentment. And so all of these things can be true. And what we are trying to do here in Montgomery County is find other economic opportunity for individuals who used to be federal employees, but now want to maybe start their own company. Maybe they start a new consulting job, or maybe they're attorneys or scientists who want to become teachers or work in state and local government using their legal and professional skills. And so we're trying to fine tune some of those opportunities, changing some of our rules and regulations and hiring practices to make it easier for people to have jobs here. But there is still a lot of anger.
Yeah.
And I'm in community meetings all the time. I'm attending coffees and happy hours that aren't so happy with people trying to figure out what the next chapter of their life is going to be because Elon Musk and Donald Trump have really decimated it here.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's so much of what I've been trying to do with this is like, what can we as citizens do? I mean, digitally, like we change the world. I mean, obviously, I run a digital agency. We want to be able to fight back. We want to be able to dissent. We want to be able to resist. We want to be able to do all these things. In 2017, I was like, okay, let's like march, let's rally, let's do all these things. I think people are a little like frozen and don't really know what to do and they want to be able to make progress and they want to be able to figure out what they can be doing to make progress. And so I feel like as an elected, like what is the most useful way that they can reach out and work with you and try to help, kind of educate and figure out what's what, I feel like
Yeah.
we kind of have to have these conversations. So I kind of like to be this bridge because I feel like as somebody who knows that there are ways we can have these conversations, I always like to ask that question of you. Like, let's get that out there. Let's have these conversations. What do you think they should be doing, or what's a good way for them to get involved? What do you think is the best way to be a
Well,
good digital citizen?
Uh, as my dear friend and our Congressman Jamie Raskin often says, a rally a day keeps the fascists away. And I actually just spent this morning with Congressman Raskin. We raised the pride flag
Yeah,
here at
that's
the county
great.
seat in Rockville, Maryland. And it is continuing to be out there, be vocal, and tell not only members of our community, but the rest of the world that we're not being put back in the closet, right? We're
Yeah.
not going to be erased from history books. And even if you aren't LGBTQ plus, but you're an ally and you're just a good Democrat and a good American citizen, there are so many other issues that you can get involved in. And if you really want to help our immigrant neighbors who are scared themselves, find an immigrant rights organization and offer them assistance, offer them funding because some of that funding is being cut as well. And then on June 14th, there's going to be No King's Day. I presume it's a national thing, but particularly in this area, thousands of people are going to come onto the street and say, "We have no kings here in America," because that's the same day that Donald Trump is having his military
Honestly.
parade. And we're calling them out on it. And so make sure you go out into the streets and protest and rally.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like making your voices heard. And I keep telling my kids that, I keep telling everybody that it's like make your voice heard. If you bystand, if you stand around and just let this be normal, as it's not normal. I think
But
that's the biggest thing that we keep forgetting is that the more we let this be normal, that a birthday military parade with paratroopers is normal while we're talking about cutting costs of like jobs is like normal. We can't let that be normal.
that's right.
And
It
like
is just
yeah,
like any bullying behavior. If you remain silent, you are complicit and you
yeah,
have to call it out. And, sometimes we got to go back to our high school or middle school days. And if you see
yeah,
somebody being picked on, you got to say stop.
yeah,
And today we got a bully in chief, and he
yeah.
is continuing to pick on the most vulnerable members of American society. And we collectively have to stand up for our neighbors.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think, what do you think will happen with our federal government workforce? Like, do you think it'll be back? Like, do you think we're going to bounce back and that this will, right size itself once again, even during this administration, or do you think it's going to take Democrats coming back in power? I'm curious for your sort of prediction here,
Yeah,
how
so
we can get right.
So I think there are a few things at play. One, Elon Musk started cutting thousands of jobs, but on the sly, they've actually hired some of them
Right.
back
Oh, I
because they
heard the
realized
story. The story.
they cut too many people that actually need to do our work, keep our air traffic system safe, keep some of our food systems safe, and then also when they cut jobs in Republican districts or friends of Republican members of
Mhm.
Congress, they picked up the phone and said, "Hey, don't cut that person's job." So they've been hiring some people back. The deal with government work used to be that the pay might not have been as good as the private sector, but you had job stability
Yeah.
and you could do your work for a full career, a full lifetime, and you were rewarded with that by stability. And that's no longer the case. This is the most unstable government we have possibly ever had. And my fear is the college graduates now and those who are in the pipeline are going to think twice about going into civil service, that they
Yeah.
might not want to go work for the State Department or at foreign embassies. They might not want to become researchers and technical writers for the FDA and for NIH. They might not want to go into the forestry because under the Parks
Right.
Department, they cut our forest firefighters, right? I mean, so this is the long-term problem I'm concerned about. Yes,
Yeah.
clearly thousands of our neighbors and thousands across the country have lost their job, but when there is a change in the administration, and I'm confident there will be, when Democrats retake control of at least the House in 2026, there is some long-standing problems that we'll have to do some course correction for.
Yeah. And think about these kids who are watching their parents suffer, and you're like, I don't want that, right? Like, you always want to do better, and like, you're not going to look at that and say, oh, this is what I want to grow up and do and be treated like, it's just that's not going to be. I agree with you that there's going to be some long-term effects that we're really going to have to work against, right? Like that feeling of what we're
Yeah,
doing.
it's basically the stigma or the reality of government not being a
There
safe
for you.
or
And
stable
yeah.
work environment. That's
Yeah,
right.
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so I've been saying this all along. I do not think that Musk is out. This is this fake, he's faking us all out. He's like, oh, I'm out. He said it like three times, then he keeps popping back up. Do you think, whack-a-mole, that Musk is really out? Like, do you think he's going to be out? Is he really leaving the White House? Will he be back next week? What's
Well,
your prediction there? Is Doge really over? Is it going to come back? What do you think? Do you think they realize they've made their mistake, or are they coming back for more efficiency, or inefficiency, really? But
I think it was The Godfather where they say one of the lines is every time I try to get out, they pull me back in. And,
right,
right. And if it's not The
got it.
Godfather, it's another mobster movie, right? And I think that's kind of the White House these days, right?
Yeah,
It is a pay to play, blatant disregard of the law. Um, and Elon Musk is a part of that. And so, is this the last we've seen of him? No. I don't think so. Quite frankly, I think he's going to be back when he wants a government contract. to help SpaceX or to help one of his other
Right.
companies, because that's what they did. He started off saying he wanted to cut, $2 trillion or so, and now it's like 150 billion, right? Which is a mere percentage of that. But part of those savings, he basically took from the federal government and then put it back into his own companies with contracts. And so
Oh
the
yeah.
grift is real, and I absolutely believe he'll be back.
Oh, I do too. I do too. There's no doubt in my mind. And just the reality of all of these cost savings is that they're not like the whole idea, which of what you said of them hiring them back. Like I've already heard these stories of, my boss was fired and then they realized he was the only one that had the keys to this, that, and the other thing. And so they had to hire him back as an advisor at 3 times the salary plus his payout. And so I'm like, that's not savings. That's not savings, right?
That's called bad management.
Right. Like
And,
any boss or CEO would be fired for mistakes like that.
there's a reason Donald Trump was in bankruptcy as many times as he did and had as many casinos close as he did. He's
And
a
casinos are
bad
usually
manager.
skewed to make money. It's usually pretty
Right,
easy to make
right.
money. Also, decisions to have paratroopers fly out on your birthday. I'm really convinced that's not something that saves money from the government. Pretty
All
convinced. Pretty
it
convinced
doesn't
that's
save
not
money, but it fills his ego, and that's why he's
right.
here.
Pretty convinced that's not inexpensive.
Right.
Just gonna guess on that one. That's
Well,
not inexpensive.
and I'll tell you, as a local leader, what really scares me about that military parade is what's going to happen to the roads, right? If
Oh,
I were the DC mayor or I was on the DC council, aside from a military parade in my neighborhood, that's problematic number one. But problem number two is what will the state of the roads be after you have 70-ton tanks roaming down Pennsylvania Avenue and First Street and Second Street and Mass Ave? Like,
yeah. What's that gonna
that's a
do to my
problem.
tire when I have to go like
If you thought there were potholes now, man, I can only imagine.
This is not good, not good. I'm very unhappy. I do feel like so much of this too is just put this dark sort of cloud over everybody. We're all kind of walking around with these, sad looks upon our face, and it's kind of devastating because I do feel like this area, also even during any Republican administration, even when we all now it's like adorable. Everyone's like, oh, remember when we didn't like George W. Bush? Huh, he's such an adorable little man now. Everyone loves him. But it was something that like I serve on the board of the American Association of Political Consultants with Republicans, and like we always got along. It was never a big deal. And it's just so sad because I do feel like there's this very divisive Washington now, which is unusual after all this time. You would think that we would be past this, but everyone's just sort of down, and it's sad. And I hope for a lot of reasons that we can get past this as a country. I want to switch gears for a second. We talked a little bit about how you were an advocate on that TV show all those years ago at American. And it does show that you are someone who has always been passionate about doing the right thing. And I say that because as I'm saying that there's this dark cloud, I know for me, and I'm saying so many people, the reason they're down is because we want to do something. We want this to be better and we want to make this better for our families and for the whole world and for everyone across the country. And it's hard, right? Because it feels like a very big task. Tell me a little bit about growing up and how it brought you to public service and why you're here, and a little bit about, because I think that it sort of narrates so much about who you are, but also about why we're here and how we get to the future and how I think it will be helpful to
Well,
making us get past a lot of this.
yeah, I mean, I'm a firm believer in history and knowing history to understand where we're going. And for me personally, I grew up on Long Island. My parents divorced when I was very young, and so it was just my mother and me in my house. And my mom, after first or second grade, she started working a second job. And so I was home alone all the time. I remember when we got our first microwave so I could have Chef Boyardee all by
Oh, my
myself,
favorite.
right? And
It is the best.
and my mom struggled, and I saw her struggle. And the way she coped with it was she was a smoker. She smoked 2 packs a day, and ended up having lung cancer, developing lung cancer, and passing away at an early age. But I saw her struggle and recognized that not everybody has to struggle, that we can have government that helps people. That's what it's all about. Government helping people. We want to make sure that we have clean water, clean air, that we have sprinklers in our buildings, that we have fire and emergency services, we have good schools. All these things that government provide are to help people. And what's happening now is they're literally dismantling all of it, even safe drinking water. They're tinkering with the drinking water. And as I mentioned, they're getting rid of firefighters, at the National Park Service. So even fire prevention is not something they care about. But for me, my mother instilled a moral compass that still guides me, and just making sure that any family, whatever they look like, whatever their makeup is, can call me and can contact their government officials and ask for help. That's what it's
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. Because and it's something that I grew up with too, and I know that's why we always felt like kindred spirits here. It's like if something isn't right, we got to do something about it, right? Like it's like we can't let that stand. That doesn't seem right. You know, my mom would always say, "Well, what about the other kids who can't afford that? Like what about that's not right." Like my mom always used to say that's not right. Like, it's like
And I
and my
actually I
dad would be
actually
like,
hear
"That's
your
not
mom
right."
saying that, knowing her
Yeah.
for all these
Yeah,
years.
you've met her. And my dad would be like, I know that's not right. Like that's something in our house. That's not right. And when we say that's not right, that means that somebody's going to do something about it. We don't just say it. Like somebody's going to do something about it. Like immediately, like that means in our family, like call to action. Like
Well, and
somebody's going to be
I'll
mad about it, and
I'll
somebody's
share this. I'll share this example. I got elected, and I immediately started hiring my staff, my team, and my chief of staff, who had come from Capitol Hill and had an incredible career there. She's filling out the paperwork, trying to get direct deposit, trying to get health insurance, and she told me that she had to fill out a form that required her salary history. And I was like, well, that's not right. Why do they want your salary
right.
history? And the county was using salary history to base future pay. And
Ugh,
when you have a wage gap that exists,
I was
as
going to
the
say, and when
country
you're a
does,
woman,
right?
that's kind of a
Wo-
problem.
Women get paid 86 cents for every dollar a man makes. Black women get paid 69 cents. Latinas get paid about 49 cents. And if you base future pay on past salary, you're only perpetuating that. So my very first piece of legislation was the Montgomery County Pay Equity Act, and we prohibited salary history from being discussed in the hiring process. And all these years later, when we have new classes of hires, there's no wage gap among gender or among race. And that's the way it should be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because just because it's not being done to you at that moment, right, doesn't mean it's not going to be done to you later. And that's what I think so much of this has been about with Trump. It's like, okay, he might not be targeting me this second, but give him a second. He's coming around to me in a second. And I feel that so strongly. And because he's all over the place. So give him a second. Like he hasn't, he may not have found me this minute, but like give him a second because he'll come back around to me. And I think so many people like they get wrapped up like, oh no, no, he's for me. I'm like, no, he's not. Give him a second. Like he's
The
coming
only
back
person
around.
he's
Yeah,
for is
it's
himself.
himself. Yeah.
And
And
he'll come around. Everyone's time comes. And the Holocaust saying of first they came for the Jews, I was not a
yep.
Jew, right? And you can go through the list of communities and segments of society that might not be up for criticism now, but everyone's time comes.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And it's that's the most heart-wrenching part of all of this is that he's torn so many people apart and they're just thinking that he's really there for them and he's really, really not. And it
Uh,
breaks my heart. But I still have hope. I still have hope. I still have hope. I think one of the other parts to this, I want to talk about because I do think so much has changed over the last few decades, and then feels like we're losing. It's like these women with the signs with the march the other day that are like, wait, I thought we were done with this shit.
Right.
We were talking
Yeah,
about
right.
and my last thing that I was talking to Kelly Burton with, and she was like, those women were like, wait, we did this, but it's a moving target. We were talking about how like we just have to keep going. And so I know with you being gay, right? Like you have been a target. And so I know how heartbreaking and heart-wrenching this has been for you. You got a little bit of attention the other day on Fox News, and everybody was talking about this. And I know how heart-wrenching in some ways that must be for you. But at the same time, it means that in some ways, it's like the biggest compliment of all because you're making so much noise and so much progress and so much um, that you're doing is so important that it almost means like you're that you're the shit that you've got this, you're doing it and you've got
Hard.
their ear, but it also means like I'm so proud of you in so many ways that you're doing it and you are really making them mad, which is probably the best thing you can be doing. I want to always be on the wrong
Oh,
side of them.
right, right.
But talk to me a little bit about that and what's happening and maybe tell everyone who's listening what happened and what's going on.
Well, I'll start by saying I am the first openly LGBTQ member of the council. And, we have a population here of 1.1 million people. So we're not a small place, and we're right outside Washington, D.C. So we're fairly progressive, and it was still a first. And when I first got elected, I raised the pride flag nearly 7 years ago to the day, and people didn't like that. And what ensued were nasty emails and tweets, but it was the phone calls. We had an overwhelming amount of phone calls that were just despicable, where my staff stopped answering our phone for 3 days. I'm an elected official. I have thick skin, but my staff just want to help people. They want to help fill your pothole. They want to get your power back on. They want to help pick up your trash and get you rental vouchers if you need them. Being the on the receiving end of vitriol and homophobia is not what they signed up. Fast forward all those years later, we kept doing it. We kept raising the pride flag. We kept resisting and persisting. And it got until last year where we got nothing. No phone calls, no hates. No one was commenting. This year, it's back. It's worse than ever. And so I went to the Supreme Court and stood up for the LGBTQ plus community because there's a Supreme Court case focused on Montgomery County
Yeah.
about parents who do not want there to be LGBTQ plus characters in books. It's not sex ed.
No,
It's
it's
not
insane.
science.
It's insane.
It is LGBTQ plus characters in books. And so I stood up and was ended up being put on Fox News. They took a clip of that, and the hateful calls and emails and everything else ensued. Just last week, we raised the pride flag in one of the neighborhoods here, downtown Silver Spring, and you would have thought I don't know what I would have was doing on social media,
I
but all I
mean,
was
it
doing was
shouldn't
raising the
be that this
flag,
is like
and it has
legendary
taken
work,
off.
but
I
it
mean,
is. It's like bringing me goosebumps, but yet it shouldn't be, right? Like 7 years have passed and this shouldn't be history making again, but like that's the courageous work again, because that's where we are in the world right now.
And
So,
and and that's also what's being fomented from the White House and Congress and the Supreme Court. They are supporting this. They're rewarding this bad behavior. And people think they can say the most despicable things, inhumane things. And again, I can handle it, right? I'm the one who is standing on the steps of the Supreme Court speaking truth to power. But my staff, my husband, my friends, they see it and it's sad and they're
yeah,
scared.
yeah. And it shouldn't be that way.
And it shouldn't be that
We've got to return to some kind of kindness. Like I was on News Nation the other day and I like literally I was humiliated because I like broke like got choked up like broke like little tears streaming my eyes because they were trying to like attack about these poor Israeli couple who was murdered and be like it's Democrats' fault. I'm like, are you like no. Like we have lost our sense of humanity. When you are blaming murder not on a murderer, but on a political party, like you need to return to humanity. And these are people. And these are people. And if you can't see that and you can't treat people with some decent level of kindness and humanity, you have lost your mind. And he has driven this country to that point, and people need to take a step back, no matter who they are and what they are, and return to decency. And if you can't be a decent human being, like you don't deserve a microphone of any sort. And you certainly don't deserve to be someone who gets to call a government official and have any kind of, because that staff person does not deserve visceral abuse. You don't deserve that. No one deserves that. But like this world, this country, I've told everybody that I can, I'm like, nobody deserves abuse like that. Nobody. But like, we've got to, as a country, start examining ourselves. And if you're going to call yourself some person of God, some person who follows any kind of religion, I don't care what religion it is, like, take a look at yourself, because that's,
Amen. I'm with you. We need to make America kind again. That's
yeah,
what we
that's what we need to
we
do.
need to be able to disagree without being disagreeable.
100%. I like don't expect anyone to agree with anything I say except for like kindness. Like I'm not going to treat anybody anything but. Yeah.
Right.
I'm so sorry that happened to you. I am so sorry that the world is not a better place. I consistently can agree with that. I will tell you, it is heart-wrenching, heart-wrenching. Politics is, as we know, the political part, the fact that you have to campaign, the fact that you have to raise money, all of this. I love that Maryland is one of the few places that does have public financing because I do feel like that does even out and make it a even playing field sometimes. But now that you've been in a few campaigns, I'm going to say somebody might feel inspired right now. Maybe not after that story, but like maybe they feel inspired that they want to run, that they want to do something. Because I started off this whole thing and I've started this podcast because I want people to understand what can I do? Like they're sitting there feeling helpless. And I don't want people to feel helpless or hopeless. I want them to feel like maybe I can run. Maybe I can run for my local school board to protect those books. Maybe I can, be on the county council. Maybe I can run for something. Maybe I can do something. What would you tell someone now that you've been on a few campaigns? What would you be your advice to someone if they were going to run? What would you say to them? What would you tell them that would encourage them that they can do this?
If you want to make your community a better place, run for office. That's at the most basic level. I was a journalist. I worked on Capitol Hill and I saw the dysfunction that was happening on Capitol Hill. And that was 12, 13 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And I just wanted to figure out how to fix sidewalks in my neighborhood. That was my inception story. And then when we got together as a community, over coffee or a beer or food, we said there are other issues. And we worked with the police on an issue. We worked with developers when they were building new homes to say, we don't want a dry cleaner to go into that storefront. We want it to be a cafe or a coffee shop,
Mm,
right? And it's all about community. And there is no office too low, too small. They're all impactful. And if there is an issue that you want to solve, uh, and people whose voices you want to uplift, then you should run for office. And it's not always easy, but it's always about the conversation. And when I've run my campaigns and as I continue serving for however long, I will always make sure that I am my better angel, that I
mm,
share my ideas, I treat people with respect, because politics can be a contact sport and you got to be ready for it. But it doesn't mean you need to always punch back. And I understand a good debate. I love a good debate. But there's a point where we're at now where people have taken it way too far.
yeah.
And there's violence
Mm,
and um, there is destruction. And so we just have to be mindful of how we all engage in the political sphere. And if there's, anyone who's on Twitter, on X, on Blue Sky, on Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, be mindful about how you're interacting with people because
yeah.
words matter.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Online is still, it's still words. I think people forget that too. It's still, you're still saying stuff, even if it is online. And what do you think maybe the most valuable lesson you've learned in politics is?
Um, for me, it's be true to yourself. And
Okay.
that was my motto when I first came out, and I came out after college, and I said, "This is who I am, and either you're my friend or you're not." Right? It took a little while to figure that out, and so to this day in politics, this is who I am. These are my opinions. I want to work and help as many people as possible. But I don't twist myself into a pretzel. Sometimes people are chameleons in politics, and
Mm.
I don't think that necessarily serves them or serves the public well. So whatever your values are, just be true to yourself. And as long as you're able to explain that to voters, explain that to your community, you'll be able to sleep well at night.
Amen. All right. I've been asking everyone, leave me with a prediction for the 26 midterms. Everyone's got their own predictions, and they've all been kind of interesting. I'm loving all of these.
Okay, my
I don't
simple
give you mine either. I just listened to everyone else's.
my simple prediction is Democrats retake control of the House,
Okay.
um, maybe with a 10-seat majority. I'm not, or 10 to
Mhm.
15 seat majority. I don't think it's
We can
necessary
have a range. That's
the,
fine.
the big blowout that it was, 6 years ago or so. And I think the Senate probably stays where it is, but I am looking forward to Democrats retaking control of the House and seeing Speaker Hakeem Jeffries take the gavel.
All right. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. I think this has been great. Thank you so much for joining me and having these conversations and for being here with me today and for serving our community and for taking a chance and for running for the county executive and for all that you do. I'm so excited for you as you embark on this campaign for county executive. Evan's running for Montgomery County executive this November and in the primary this coming June. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm so glad to have you, and I hope you will come on again. Thanks, you.
Thank you, Taryn.
Thanks for listening to Political Trail Mix. Make sure to follow and review wherever you get your podcast and stay connected with me on Instagram and YouTube. Let's keep this conversation going.